All right, for station 3, we're going to take a look at similes. So similes are another example of figurative language, and similes are using like or as, and we compare two different objects. So we're going to take a look at Harlem to help us identify some similarities. So I will read Harlem out loud to you, and as I read, I want you to underline every simile you hear. And again, a simile compares two things using like or as. What happens to a dream deferred? Does it dry up like a raisin in the sun, or fester like a sore and then run? Does it sink like rotten meat, or crust and sugar over like a syrupy sweet? Maybe it just sags like a heavy load, or does it explode? I'll read it one more time for you. Does it dry up like a raisin in the sun, or fester like a sore and then run? Does it sink like rotten mud, or crust and sugar over like a syrupy sweet? Maybe it just sags like a heavy load, or does it explode? All right, so let's take a look at the similes. Does it dry up like a raisin? Would be one simile. Fester like a sore. Crust and sugar over like a syrupy sweet. And the last one, sag like a heavy load. So if you did not highlight each of those or underline each of those, please take a moment to make sure you have that recorded in your Poets Journal. All right, now we're going to take a look at 4.2 in our Poets Journal, excuse me, and we're going to interpret these similes. So I'm going to go over fester like a sore, letter A, with you, and then I'm going to set the timer and have you do B, C, D, and E. So letter A is fester like a sore. That means to grow infected. So if you have a sore and it just festers, that means it's kind of sitting there and it's not healing. So it just continues to grow infected. Maybe you've picked at it. Maybe there's a bacteria in there that's not cleaned out. So it grows infected. So take a look at letter B, dry up like a raisin in the sun. Letter C, sink like rotten meat. Letter D, crust and sugar over like a syrupy sweet. And letter E, sag like a heavy load. I'm going to set the timer, and at the end of the timer, we'll check. All right, let's take a look. So to dry up like a raisin in the sun means to shrivel. So when a raisin dries up, it shrivels. Sink like rotten meat. It means to spoil or smell. So if something's rotten, a lot of times it smells, it spoils, you can't eat it, you can get sick. So that's kind of like a double meaning. Crust and sugar over like a syrupy sweet means it crystallizes. So if something is sugary, it can get that crystallization, that growth on it, kind of like a sugar. And sags like a heavy load, that means it weighs you down or it weighs something down. All right, so the next part of this chart is now that we have the literal meaning, we're going to take a look at the figurative meaning and then identify in this poem, is that representation, is that simile used to be in a good way or is it to show that it's a bad thing? So I'm going to set the timer for 5 minutes. Again, you're going to do B, C, D, and E. For A as our example, fester like a sore, we said the literal meaning was to grow infected. The figurative meaning is deferred dreams are kind of a sickness. So if they fester or they grow infected, if we're deferring our dream, that means that it's kind of something that lingers. It's sickness. It can what it's not healthy for us, right, to defer our dreams and hopes. And so that would be an example of a bad thing. So again, for the figurative meaning, you're thinking about the dreams deferred. So what's the figurative meaning related to when we defer dreams or put off dreams? 5 minutes. All right, so let's take a look. Dried up like a raisin in the sun. We said the literal meaning was to shrivel. This means your dreams shrivel if you don't follow them. They kind of get old, they kind of wilt. So this would be a bad example. Stink like rotten meat. The literal meaning was that it spoils and smells. The figurative meaning is that your dreams go bad if you don't work toward them. So if you set yourself a goal or a dream and you don't work towards them, then they're just going to become bad goals. You're not going to be successful at them. So that would be another example of a bad. Crust and sugar over like syrupy sweet. We said that it would crystallize is the literal meaning. That means that your dreams can't be used if you wait too long. So for example, if you're making a dream that you want to be a football player or a softball player or some kind of athlete, let's say, if you wait too long, you're going to come out of that time that you would be able to excel as an athlete. There's usually like a time frame associated, your energy level, your age, the ability your body can take. So we would say that this is bad. Sags like a heavy load means weigh you down. Literally, that means that if you defer your dreams, if you put them off, they're going to be a burden. Those are things that you're going to regret. You're going to wish that you had done. So they're always going to kind of linger as something unaccomplished. And this would be another example of something bad. All right, so some things to think about. Are the things that we described in these similes good or bad? And based on this poem, does Langston Hughes think that deferring a dream leads to anything good? I would say that they are all giving examples of things that are bad. And I would say that based on all of those bad examples, he's encouraging his readers not to defer their dreams because they're not going to lead you into happiness. It's not going to lead you to fulfilled in your life or your accomplishments. All right, so your next task is a little bit of a writing task. So you're going to look at 4.3. This isn't related to our poem, Harlem, but it's using that example of writing a single question like Hughes does, and then using similes. So now you're going to write your own series of similes to answer a single question, just like Hughes did. Your simile will answer the question, what happens when your teeth aren't brushed? Hope none of us really find that out. But what you're going to do is you're going to write your own similes. You're going to use the word bank. And in there are 9 verbs or action words. For each of these verbs, you will write a simile by adding an adjective, a noun, and the word like or as. I'm going to show you an example using the verb charge. Let's take a look at the rest of the word bank. So the first one is charge. Going down the column is clash, then weaken. In the middle column is howl, sting, decay. And then the last column is sour, wilt, and ooze. So let's take a look at that example for charge. So your page looks like this, of course, not with the first thing filled in, but it gives you that question. What happens when your teeth aren't brushed? And we're going to use that repetition of do they to start every question. And so I'm using the charge. Do they charge like a raging bull? So I would think about something that charges, and I thought of the animal of a bull. And obviously a bull at rest isn't going to be like really aggressive, but if it's raging, if it's running, those could be examples of adjectives. All right, so I'm going to give you the remainder of the time in the station to use those words in the word bank, and then I'm going to be taking a look at your poem.